Hi guys. Everything's exciting.
As soon as
Everything
you
is
said like the
awesome.
illustrious sounds, it was so hard not to just immediately try to go full Boomhauer. Dango Hadouken, man.
That would have been
That was
great.
too like
Yikes.
too
Uh,
I just lost like half of the English language.
I
Too
mean,
intelligible for Boomhauer. We're gonna start off with saying hello to a very fantastic and very special guest. If you are on the Tickety Talkities, or every Monday you tune in on YouTube for the Will and Chill Show, Will and Chill Show, you will recognize our fantastic friend here, the Taviran Tavern. Go ahead and say hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm really stoked to be here. Thank you all for inviting me.
we are really stoked to have you. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
After clever wording and about 16 different tricks, we were able to trick you into agreeing, and now you're stuck here.
All right. If there was any tricks involved, you said, "Hey, you want?" I'm like, "Yes." Pretty much how that happened.
Yes.
It's always a trick. We approach very
that's
kindly,
our trick.
and then you get
That's the
stuck.
trick.
Yeah. We approach very kindly, and then you get stuck with like, why? Why did I do that?
That's our secret, Cap. We're always tricky.
That's awesome. I'm like super. I'm really happy to be here. Actually.
So, topic for today, we're going to talk about changes. It's all the rage right now. It has been all the rage since at least the 24th of December of 2021, and well before. How the Wheel of Time TV show was
Since November
absolutely
19th?
ruined by Rape Jet. No, that's a joke.
Yeah.
It's fucking fantastic. And we're gonna it's different, and we're gonna talk about it. And because we are a full spoiler podcast, we need to make sure that you are protected from any and all potential tainty spoilers. So here is your
Correct.
spoiler warning for this episode from the fantastic and lovely Kate Reading and Michael Creamer.
This episode contains spoilers from the entire Wheel of Time series.
If you have not read the series, you are at risk of being spoiled.
You have been warned.
As far as a just strictly book to television series goes, how do you think the adaptation was as far as like on a scale of 1 to 10? Which I don't love, but is probably the best way to do this. On a scale of, or actually here, let's do it simpler. On a scale of disagree, neutral, or agree, do you agree with the choices that they made for the adaptation, or do you think that they were a little bit of a problem? Do you disagree with Rafe and you would have done it, a lot different? And I mean that is a lot different. Not like, oh, I wouldn't have changed this one thing, but all of the other ones can stay. Like almost every change was not great, or the vast majority of the changes were great, or kind of half and half. So we'll start with Andrew as far as just agree with the changes, neutral on the changes, or disagree with the changes from book to television show.
Since we're kind of pigeonholed into 3 categories,
Yeah.
I'm still going to caveat it and be like, episodes 1 through 7, I agree with the changes made. Episode 8, I'm going to maintain neutrality on that.
Okay. All right. Taviran Tavern, what do you think?
Given that
And you
there
can
are-
caveat if you want. That's also totally
yeah. I mean, given that there were little things that I didn't agree with, but
sure.
there were quite a few things that I was completely fine with. I'm going to go with neutral across the board.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I will definitely say that as a book fan personally, I definitely will say that I was neutral as well. There were so many things that I was like, you really didn't need to do that. As far as the story you're telling currently. And granted, again, I do still reserve judgment to a certain extent. If later on they do prove me wrong, I'm okay with that. But you don't get to lean back on "we'll prove you wrong later" if you're putting out one season right now. So there were a lot of things that I was like, you didn't need to do that for the story you're telling currently. But then there were a lot of things where I was like, hell yeah, you needed to do that to tell the story you're telling. All right,
Fair
so I have a new question to ask, which is going to be very similar, and
All right.
maybe we'll actually have another answer that's the same thing. But we'll start with you, Tavern.
Okay.
What is your and again, this is going to be a hard question, and you might need to think about it for a second. What is the biggest change from the books to the television show that you found the best, found the coolest, found the most useful, found the whatever, that was just
So
the biggest change that you agreed with, that you thought was a good change?
Okay. That's easy. I don't even think about it.
Oh, shit.
The warders and land. The humanizing of the warders and land. Period. For me, that was the best thing out there. The fact that we didn't get a cold dead guy just walking around not saying shit. And again, I mean, I'm a vet as well, so for me, it just hit home because it's they've made the warders more of a military unit, even though they're the individual Aes Sedai, right?
Mhm.
But they train together. They're comrades in arms. You see it in episode 3, I believe, when they're sitting around the campfire and they're telling stories. Or is it 4? And they're telling stories and whatnot.
My
It just
favorite episode of the
yeah.
entire series.
Mine was 5. Yeah, mine was 5, but it's followed by
Sure.
4.
Yeah.
But it just reminded me of being out in the field. And they did such a damn good job with the relationships and just the humanizing of the warders. That's it.
Andrew.
It set you on a whole tirade. I quite
Really
enjoyed
good.
listening. That's how you know, like, Daniel really liked a point. I mean, we all do it. I have to say, like, my favorite change is the exposition for Logain. I really like how in one fell swoop of one episode, they completely communicated the actual danger of false dragons, but in the same token, 100% humanized Logain. It's not like in the books where, okay, you've heard of this false dragon, they claim there's something they're really not, or whatever. They say they're dangerous, and then you're just left like, okay, thanks hearsay for telling me something, but I don't. How am I supposed to believe it? But you actually see it, and then Logain gets humanized enough to a point to where, when you actually see him captured and him resisting capture, like, you actually do, or at least I did, you kind of feel for the guy, because yes, he was just enthralled in like a whole battle, but like the last thing you see of that whole event of him, essentially conquering Galdea, is him looking at the king and being like, Galen, sorry.
No, you're good.
But you see him sit there and like look at the king and be like, no, I am not going to kill you. They say, that, I'm going to break the world, but I mean to, tie it together. And it very much humanizes who Logain is. And people that are never readers or first time readers and haven't got there, like, that is an incredibly crucial point for Logain further on in the series. So now, Daniel, you got to answer your own question.
Yeah.
Okay. So mine actually has to do with Siuan and Moiraine. I am not an LGBTQ human. I am a cisgendered white male, and I know that about myself. That being said, I think that the Siuan and Gareth Bryn relationship later on is cool. I do. I also think that the Moiraine and Tom relationship later on is also cool. I don't want to diminish either of those relationships later on in the story. However, 2 really good reasons I think that change was good is, number 1, strict representation. I absolutely love that is in the show, and that is a big part of the show, and that no one really questions it. I mean, they would, because it's an Amyrlin and an Aes Sedai, but not because it's 2 women.
Yeah.
Nobody questions the warders. Nobody would question this relationship. It just is a thing that happens in this world, which is awesome. And number two, I think that it actually really springboards off of their story from New Spring incredibly well, which granted, again, I know that television show watchers don't have that. They don't know about that yet. They will someday, presumably, but they don't know about it yet. But as book readers, I think that there was so much more to Moraine and Suan and the things that they had to deal with when they were younger in the tower and the things that they went through. And if I'm being completely honest, the trauma that they shared early on in their life that actually lends itself incredibly well to this relationship that ends up in the show. And whether it actually ends up being a thing into the future that snuffs out in some ways the other relationships that the two characters end up in, or whether it's just a foundation by which they talk about who they are and what they do and why some of these other connections to these other people are so strong. Either way, I actually think it's a great addition to the story at this moment in the story.
So, but I have a question since
Excellent.
You asked a question.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we've asked what did you enjoy most? What was the change you enjoyed most? We have to do the opposite
Yep.
point.
I was gonna
And
ask
ask.
next.
I kind of figured. What was the change you liked the least? And Daniel,
And
I'm
you
actually
can't
gonna
do
ask
the
you-
Trollocs. You can't do. You're not allowed to do the Trollocs this season 8. No, I'm just kidding. Or episode 8. No.
But Daniel, yeah, I'm gonna get you. We're gonna get you to go first this time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that the change I liked the least from book to screen was actually the ways. I mean, there were parts of it that I definitely understood, and there were parts of it that I definitely liked. But and again, I do want to say I understand and accept why it needed to be so fast, why it needed to happen so quickly. They couldn't spend nearly as much time in the ways as they did in the books. But I definitely had a little bit of a problem with the fact that overall, I wasn't as scared of the ways in the show as I was of the books. And not just I wasn't as scared, like it was a huge drop off between how much I was scared of the ways in the books and how much I was scared of the ways in the television show. It felt so much less foreboding and so much more dealable in the show than it did in the books, especially because they end up spending like a small number of hours there, seemingly, rather than multiple days. And again, I liked parts of it. I really did. I think they did a number of parts very well, but boy, did I not get nearly as much fear from the ways as I felt really kind of needed to be there for them to be so hesitant to go into the ways.
All right, Tavern, what was your least enjoyed change?
I was hoping you would forget me. I have two, actually.
Oh, is that why
all
the
right.
microphone is red? It's the red stoplight. Like, hey,
No,
stop!
that-
Don't ask
Yeah,
this.
yeah, no. I actually have two.
Beautiful. Let's go.
Anybody that knows me knows that I have an issue with Loyal. Like a fucking huge issue with Loyal on many different levels. Somebody pointed one of the things out. Loyal is slow. That line alone, my heart died a little bit when he said, "Oh, we're not known for our speed." I was like, "What?" I fucking lost my shit for a second.
Oh, I thought they meant the drug, not like their actual speed.
No, right?
Oh, I thought they meant they're talking. Not
No, they were talking about. She said
No, I know.
Moraine and Lan are going. We're not known for our speed, and I was like, "Oh my god, fucking shoot me now!" That was one. That so the whole, everybody knows I have a thing about the Ogier in general. The freaking ears, I'm pissed off about the ears. I'm pissed off about the eyebrows that dangle to the cheeks. I mean, fuck, they could have done that. The fact that the one thing after seeing the Trollocs, and I said this before, the Trollocs in episode 1 were my bar for where they were going to go with Loyal.
And Loyal
said,
didn't hit it.
No, and I was like, the
He
last thing I
didn't.
want is another freaking Hagrid. And what do we get? Barista Hagrid. That's what we got. All right, so number 2,
Yeah.
my second thing is the Perrin storyline and the way
Oh!
they're doing. Wait a minute. The way they're doing his whole Wolf brother thing is very
okay, yeah.
is very Teen
All right.
Wolf to me. It's super Teen Wolf to me. Like they start off with it. Oh, a wolf licked my leg. Oh wait, we met the Tinkers, but I heard them coming before Egwene heard them coming. Oh, you know this, and then they get into the goddamn ways. Or he goes glowy eyed, right? It was like flicker, right? Because his eyes never hit gold for long. They're like, it's like he was getting short circuited or some shit. They made him look like a dog. They had the muzzle on him. You know, they were cutting into him. Then he finally breaks loose, or Egwene gets him loose, and then the muzzle lands around his neck, and it looks like a collar, right? And then in the ways, he's like, "There's something up ahead," and we're like, "Oh shit, what is it?" It's a fucking rock.
Yeah.
The scratch
Oh,
rock.
yeah.
That's what he saw in the dark. And I'm like, seriously?
All right,
But,
we've gotten way off track at this point, which again, great discussion, and that's Black Tower like to a T. But I do actually also very much want to hear Andrew's answer to this story.
My least favorite change is the absolute blue balling of Tarwin's Gap. This was the Dragon Reborn's power statement. This was the Dragon Reborn showing to the reader, to the viewer, to everybody why the Dragon Reborn is such a thing to be hailed and feared. How powerful the Dragon Reborn is.
Yeah.
And instead, we got lackluster CGI Trollocs and a change to
Hey,
how
I
Lincoln
said you
works,
weren't
which
allowed to choose that. No,
I can do whatever I
No,
want.
we already talked about that. So
Well,
much.
he didn't choose that. He didn't choose that.
No,
that
I
was
know,
just,
I know.
that
I know.
was
It's
just,
the part about it. Yeah.
But no, like I'm also in the camp of people that yes, I reread it a couple times, but I didn't find the book ending to the Eye of the World all that confusing. And that's one of the big things I've heard as people have talked about the season finale and everything. They're like, oh, it's still a little confusing, but it's not as confusing as the ending in the book. And I'm like, it just wasn't that confusing to me. Like the perspective changed quickly because it was meant to convey this whole like fast-paced thing. All these things are happening
like a
not
Robert Jordan battle?
simultaneously. Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it took a reread or two to do it, but I didn't find it all that confusing. I thought that what everything was very sufficient for the payoff you got in the books, and I very much enjoyed that more than what we saw in the show.
It's fair. You know, here at we have been super. I mean, like, again, I don't say this about every guest. I do think about it about a lot of guests, but I don't say it about every guest.
That I'm sexy. Oh, sorry.
Oh, extremely.
Yes.
But that you added so much to this discussion, and I've really appreciated you
thank
coming on and you taking the time to go ahead and talk to us and with us. Yikes, English. Especially for as long as you have been willing to go ahead and be on the episode. But I think that is a reasonable time for us to go ahead and wrap this up. We have asked a lot of different questions. I think that we've dived into a lot of different stuff, which is
like
absolutely what
3
we
or
look
4
for here.
and then everything else is just
I know, right?
tangents.
Thank you all very, very much for listening. You've all been awesome. If you think of a change that is your favorite, your least favorite, the ones that you think worked the best, the ones that you think worked the worst, as far as book to television, please let us know in the comments below, whether that's on YouTube, where a lot of people are probably watching this, or on Podbean, where a lot of people are listening to this, or anywhere that you're listening or watching at all. please let us know. We absolutely want to hear your thoughts on the gamut of what we've talked about tonight.
And if you're listening to this, wherever you are listening to it, if you wouldn't mind taking the time, please do leave a rating, leave a review, leave a comment, that kind of stuff. It definitely does help us out so that other people can find the show as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do please do subscribe.
Taviran Tavern, thank you so much for being
you.
here with us on the episode. You've been a fantastic guest, and you've had some amazing things to say, which has been super helpful for us to go off on ridiculous tangents and all of that good stuff.
And my parting thought for you guys, season 2, if we get to season 2, or when we get to season 2,
When we get to season 2,
Kalendor will be relocated to Ruiden.
I don't hate it,
That's
but
what I'm
also
throwing
I
out there.
hate it.
Anyway, thank you all so
Calm down,
much
Savannah.
for tuning in to the Black Tower podcast. Taviran Tavern, thank you so much for agreeing to make this mistake. I mean, for joining us on this episode. It's fantastic. We
The
always
happiest
enjoy.
mistake I've ever made.
Oh,
Hey,
so kind.
and you have kids? What? I didn't say that.
I have 2 pain in
Your
the
kids
asses,
are
yes.
lovely. They're amazing.
Yeah, it's my favorite mistake
Oh,
since I signed my oath of enlistment. No, but again, thank you so much. This has been a ton of fun. Anybody listening, anybody watching, we thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to put us in the background on a computer and putting us out of sight and semi out of mind. And hopefully we haven't made your job consider whether they should keep you on or not if you got us on speaker. But if we have, you're welcome. Because when one door closes, another Terangrial opens.
Indeed.
Or somebody gets a spear to open, another door for you to get out of. Who knows? For all of us here at the Black Tower podcast, Josh has been out in the field and sends his love and appreciation and probably a ton of laughs. And yeah, just a ton of
many
laughs.
laughs.
Yeah.
I'm actually almost glad he wasn't here tonight.
Ouch.
Almost.
Ouch.
Not actually.
Wow.
But almost. I'm not sure we would have made it through as much stuff if there had been as
not
much
at all.
Josh fucking laughter as I assume there would have been.
It's one of the things, like, when it's just the three of us, like, our logical flow of conversation just, like, not seamlessly but pretty easily flows like a dam. Like during like a mild flood season, we have a guest on, they make amazing points, and like all of us at the same time go, but here's this thought on it. And it's fun, but it's also like, hey, your time just got extended by like an hour.
and then you also get a lot of this.
Knee slapping laughter. But yes, I have been your Bajan Mahal, Andrew.
And I have been your Amin Khan Mahale, Daniel. And again, from all of us here at the Black Tower, including our on-location Ashaman, thank you so much for coming. We hope that everything is going your way today. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Always running the show.
In the tower, you can bring your pain. In the tower, you can feel the strain.
You've been having so much trouble just fitting in.